Ladies and gentlemen and good friends, tonight I would like to give you a few practical suggestions which you can easily apply to your professional work, if you agree with them, of course. Our acting of today suffers very much from what we might call uniformity. For some reasons, which we shall not discuss tonight, we neglect many simple means of expression, which might give us greater variety and relief in our acting. Figuratively speaking, our acting of today resembles rather a straight line drawn on a sheet of paper. There are no curves in it, no ups and downs, no climactic moments. It is just a dull, straight line which makes our performance uniform. But from the very start, my good friends, I must warn you that suggestions which I am going to give you must be used very carefully, by no means obviously. They must be used with great tact and taste. Rather, use them as a kind of hint of them, and don't make them too obvious for the audience. We'll begin with the problem of tempo. You know that there are two kinds of tempos. One might be called inner tempo and another outer tempo. Outer tempo, fast or slow, concerns the speech, the movement, the business. That means all what we can see or hear. And inner tempo is something different. Inner tempo is the speed with which our feelings, emotions, desires, and will impulses of every kind, thoughts, images, and so on. They can appear and disappear, change and follow one another with greater or lesser speed. These two different tempos, inner, purely psychological, and outer tempo, visible and audible, are absolutely independent one from the other. They can run simultaneously, being both either slow or fast, or one of them slow, another fast, and vice versa. By the way, it is always much more interesting for the spectator to watch the life of the character on the stage while there are two tempos running simultaneously, one slow and another quick. In my book you will find some exercises and examples concerning these different tempos. Every part, every character gives us many opportunities to play with these tempos, to make a beautiful, wonderful, attractive, expressive, interesting pattern of these tempos, if we look for them, of course. Even if neither our director nor the playwright gave us any definite indications, we might use our inventiveness, ingenuity, and find, or rather create by ourselves, this play of different tempos. When I speak about fast or slow moving of inner life of the character, I don't mean that we have really to think or to feel or to wish something definite. No, I mean that we have to order ourselves to have the sensation, only the sensation of slow or quickly moving inner life. It is good to remember that while using on the stage quick outer tempo, we shouldn't neither hurry nor hasten. Instead of that, we should better make our movements with a flying quality, which will kill the impression that the actor is in a hurry, that he hastens, which always makes the impression that the actor is helpless and not sure of himself. Of course, this flying quality should be used with a good taste and not overdone. A good exercise for developing a fine sense for tempos will be this. Choose some characters from different plays or watch the people around you and try to define what is the general tempo in which they live, inner tempo and outer tempo. And you will find always a great difference between these tempos. Let us say Lady Macbeth, or King Lear, or Hamlet, or Ophelia, Cordelia. Every one of them have their own tempos, general tempos. Compare these tempos, then try to find within these general tempos what alterations, what changes might occur. Take, for instance, Malvolio. His inner and outer tempo is definitely different one before he gets his letter or after that. So, my friends, this way of understanding and using tempo on the stage will alone enable you to kill the uniformity in your acting. But I have some more suggestions. Try to concentrate on all kind of contrasts and polarities within your part. From this point of view, try to consider tempos as we just discussed them with you. You can always make a wonderful pattern or patterns out of these tempos if you will try to distribute them within your part, having in mind those contrasts and polarities. You can do it in many ways. You can play, for instance, the beginning of your part in one tempo and the end of it in the other tempo, regardless of whether it is a comedy or a drama. Between the beginning and the end, you might want to create many smaller contrasts and polarities. Make wonderful transitions from one to the other, either changing the tempos abruptly or making slow and beautiful transition, crescendos, diminuendos, and so on. By doing so, you will have tremendous possibilities of playing and combining outer and inner tempos the way you wish. The same thing you can do with feelings, emotions, movements, gestures, business of your character. You can distribute them just as well, having in mind the different contrasts, different polarities, and you will have this wonderful relief within your part, which will also kill the uniformity of your acting. Again, you can start with the finding the polarity between the beginning and the end, and then find more and more variations and nuances between the beginning and the end. You can achieve the same effect by using alternatively radiating and receiving, for instance. Furthermore, you can make a good use of the qualities which we usually call molding, floating, flying, and radiating. You can distribute them just as well for creating contrast in bigger or smaller sections of your part. These qualities can be easily applied to your speech, gestures, movements, business, to everything. You can also achieve good effects if you will start using that what we call outer and inner action. May I remind you briefly what it is? Outer action we call those moments or longer sections of the play when the actor expresses fully almost completely everything what the character has to express, using its voice and movements and gestures, everything almost to the fullest extent. And the inner action we call everything which is veiled, muted, more and more, and the extreme pole opposite to outer action is a complete pause. When nothing is expressed outwardly, everything is radiation, atmosphere, any kind of inner suspense. With other words, all the intangible means of expression and no outer expression at all. Having achieved a necessary degree of skill and experience in creating these contrasts within your part, you can try the following thing. While rehearsing, watch your partners, their way of acting, and try to find the contrasts between your acting and your partners. If your partner speaks slowly, try to speak faster. If your partner uses molding movements, try to use floating, flying, and if you wish, even radiating. If you notice that your partner is rather inclined to use outer acting, try to find the possibility to act mutedly. I understand perfectly well that you might have a pleasure of acting with the partner whose way of expressing himself on the stage is absolutely monotonous and uniform. Then, of course, you will get very little from your partner, and then you will have to confine yourself with creating these contrasts and polarities only within your part. It is worthwhile, and it will produce the necessary effect. The third means of avoiding the monotony in our acting, I might describe the following way. While working upon our parts, we must find out the different attitudes of my character to the other characters in the play, or at least to main characters with whom I have to do. And not only to the characters, of course, but also to the most important events and happenings within the play. These differences will lead us naturally to the necessity to find some different qualities, feelings, sensations whenever the difference in attitude occurs. In one case, our attitude, for instance, can be fearful, in another, loving, in the third, intimate, and so on. It will bring great variety in our acting and kill this uniformity. But here is a little subtlety to which I would like to call your attention. After having experienced and expressed this or that attitude toward other characters or events, your own character becomes different himself because of this special experience with different characters and events. It is not only that he experiences the difference, but this difference changes, alters the character itself. It becomes different. That means that since that moment, the character has certain plus within itself, or certain minus, to greater or lesser degree, of course. It is just the same as in our everyday life. We do not notice it, but after encountering some people or events, we ourselves become different people. That is the thing upon which so-called change of the character from year to year is based. Certain metamorphoses takes place within my character during the play. If my character, for instance, is fearful towards somebody or something on the stage, this fear leaves its traces for the rest of the part, for the rest of my acting, however subtle and gentle it might be. It is obvious, of course, that the possibility of changing our character during the play depends largely on the playwright, of the length of our role, but nevertheless we can always find this opportunity if we use our imagination, our inventiveness, our ingenuity, and if we want, of course, to use these means of killing the uniformity in our acting. As a classical and perhaps unique example, you might take King Lear. You can follow step by step how after each meeting with different people, different events, he becomes different himself. But I don't think I have to mention that in spite of all the changes, of all the metamorphoses, the character in its essence, in its core, of course remains the same. As the fourth means, I would like to suggest to you the following thing. Each character represents some guiding idea or some leading thought which should be discovered and clearly understood by the actor. But unfortunately, it is not always the case. And why is it so? There are many reasons, but one of the most important is that the actor relies too much upon his lines. But the guiding idea, the guiding thought, lies not only in the lines given by the writer. The deeper meaning is often hidden behind the business, behind certain emotions, feelings, desires, behind the objectives and super-objectives of the play or of the part. To find this leading thought, the actor must investigate not only his lines, but he must answer the question, which moments of business on the stage are of such nature that without this piece of business the whole part will mean nothing. The same concerning emotions, the same concerning objectives. And only of all these sources put together, taken together, the deeper meaning of the character will begin to become more and more obvious. And after that, the actor might begin to investigate his lines in more and more detailed way. Let him take a pencil in his hand and try to underline in his dialogues the most important lines and words, which are all indicating the main guiding idea or the thought which he found while trying to investigate his part first as a whole. And then he will see that the entire text of his part, written by the playwright, will fall into two parts. The smaller one will consist only of important, significant words and lines, without which the character might lose its meaning. The bigger part will consist of lines and words which are either of no significance at all, or they serve the development, clarification, embroidery, as it were, of the main lines and words. And so we have, as it were, four channels which will help us to find the guiding thought or the leading idea. Those channels are the feelings or emotions of the character, its business, its objective or objectives, and the lines of the play. The actor should underline the main things in all four directions. In all probability, he will change his mind several times. At first, it might seem to him, for instance, that this or that emotional moment is most important, and after proceeding with his work, he might change his mind and underline something else, some different place, going along this or that channel until he balances all these underlined points and moments so that he will be satisfied. Of course, he must have in mind that these lines, these channels will cross and recross themselves many times. Having underlined, for instance, the most expressive place for his objectives, he might find out that this same place serves just as well as the most important moment for feelings, emotions, or lines, and so on. The lesser is the number of underlined places, the better. Then the really important and significant things will become more obvious. Having found those important points in the play, or rather in his character, the actor must think of the ways how to convey them to the audience as significant moments. From the very beginning, he must tell himself, I have not to push to stress these things by means of increasing the volume of my voice or any other primitive means. There are finer means, and some of them might be the following ones. He might insert, for instance, a little very short pauses before and after the significant moment. Or he might change qualities before the important moment, then a different quality during this important moment, and then again a new quality after this important significant moment is over. Or he can, for instance, find the means and the possibility to throw away, as we say, the lines before and after the significant moment, or quite the other way. He might throw away the important moment while speaking the lines, and this throwing away sometimes makes the place, the word, the business, the feelings even more significant than if we were acting it fully. With other words, any contrast which you will find before the significant moment, during it, and after it will serve the expressiveness and will save you from the necessity to push, to press, to prove to the audience as if saying, look, here is the important moment. Now, allow me please to repeat once more my warning which I gave to you. All of these four means which I suggested in order to kill the uniformity, the monotony, and colorless acting are very strong means, and we should use them very carefully, with great tact, with great taste, not overdoing them, and not make them obvious to the spectator. And finally, if you will remember one of our previous discussions concerning the many-leveled acting, you will see that this kind of acting serves the same purpose of killing the monotony of expressiveness on the stage. And that is, my good friends, what I wanted to talk to you about tonight. Thank you very much.